When the first photo from my husband's fishing trip hit my cloud, I did not scream, call him, or give myself permission to panic. I sat in our Seattle condo with my work laptop open, one hand around cold coffee, watching Adobe sync like it knew more than I did. Grant Whitlow had borrowed my inspection camera that morning, promising Puget Sound, salmon, and a few practice shots of gulls before sunset. He knew it was the camera I used for marine insurance claims, and I let him take it because marriage makes permission feel automatic. The first image was not water, sky, or a dock. It was Grant outside a rented storage bay near Tacoma, smiling too hard. The second showed stripped boat engines lined across concrete, black tape over serial plates, and a white cargo van with the license plate clean. The third caught Kelsey Rourke in a cream jacket, holding a folder while she looked past my husband like she owned the room. I knew her as an event broker from marina circles, not as the woman whose perfume had started following Grant home. Then the fourth photo opened, and my stomach went quiet before my mind did, because my company name sat printed across a checklist. Lydia Carver Marine Claims, typed above parts I had never inspected, beside boxes I had never signed, under lights I had never stood beneath. I clicked the file details and saw the location tag sitting nowhere near the fishing spot Grant had described over breakfast. My hand moved toward my phone, then stopped, because if I called first, he would lie first, and I was done arriving late. I did not delete anything, screenshot anything, or send anything to Jocelyn. Even though every scared part of me wanted a witness, I closed the laptop halfway, opened it again, and watched one more photo load. Grant raising a beer beside Kelsey and stolen machinery. That picture did not prove every charge, but it proved he was not confused, trapped, or standing in the wrong place by accident. He was comfortable, and comfort has a sound when it breaks inside a house. You still have to leave. I put the laptop in my tote, took my keys from the bowl, and left before courage had time to renegotiate. In the elevator mirror, I looked like a woman going to a client meeting, except my hands kept flexing around nothing. Seattle traffic crawled toward the precinct, rain blurring the windshield, and I repeated, "Do not call him. Do not warn him." At the front desk, I turned the laptop toward the officer and kept my voice low enough to survive it. "I need someone to see what my husband uploaded to my cloud." The officer at the front desk looked bored until the third photo loaded. Then his shoulders straightened, and the room changed around me. He asked whether I had edited anything, and I said no before he finished, because that was all I controlled. He told me not to touch the keyboard, disappeared through a locked door, and returned with a woman in plain clothes. Detective Mara Brenner gave me her name, pulled a chair beside the laptop, and asked how Grant got my camera. I told her he borrowed it after breakfast, claiming he wanted fishing photos and gulls near Puget Sound. I explained the inspection lens, the sync settings, and the automatic backup I used for marine insurance files before closing each claim. Brenner listened without interrupting, but her eyes kept stopping where mine had already learned to stop. Black tape over serial plates, a white cargo van clear enough to read, Kelsey Rourke holding paperwork beside equipment I had never inspected. When Brenner opened the metadata, her expression shifted once, small enough that most people would have missed it. "He told you Puget Sound," she said, while Tacoma sat on the screen like a second confession. Another officer stepped in, looked at the van, and left without asking me anything, which told me that plate meant something. Brenner turned the laptop away and asked, "Does Grant know these uploads came to your cloud?" "No," I answered too quickly, then pressed my hands flat against my knees because certainty felt dangerous in that room. Brenner said, "Good. Not like comfort, but like the files still had a pulse." I asked whether I was exposed because my business name was printed on that checklist, and my voice cracked only on business. She told me I had done the right thing by bringing the original files before anyone could delete, edit, or explain them away. She gave me only enough to understand the shape of it, not enough to make me reckless. Marina owners had reported missing engines, altered inspection paperwork, and pressure from people offering cheaper replacement parts through private channels. My company name mattered because it could make dirty equipment look verified to insurers, buyers, and anyone too busy to question letterhead. Then she asked if I knew Kelsey, and I admitted I knew her from marina events and the perfume Grant brought home. That was when my marriage stopped being the center of the room. Even with Grant smiling from every other frame, Brenner told me not to post, forward, screenshot, confront, or investigate, because broken evidence gives guilty people room to breathe. They needed file history, metadata, location records, and time to pursue a warrant. Before I left, she gave me a direct number and said, "Go home. Act normal. If he senses panic, he starts cleaning." I drove home from the precinct with Detective Brenner's warning sitting beside me heavier than the laptop. Grant's truck was not in the garage yet, and that gave me time to breathe without being watched. The condo looked polished from the doorway. Water view. Clean counters. Everything we had used to prove we were fine. I stood there realizing fine had been the most expensive lie in the room. Grant came home 20 minutes later smelling like cold air, engine grease, and perfume I had stopped pretending was laundry detergent. He kissed near my cheek, not on it, and started talking about salmon like Tacoma had magically turned into open water. I kept my hand around a glass of water and let him keep going, because every sentence gave me distance instead of answers. When he laughed and said, "Should have brought you next time," I smiled without teeth and knew there would not be one. The next morning, I sat across from Renee Cormack in her downtown office while rain worked down the windows behind her. She did not waste comfort on me, which made me trust her faster than sympathy would have. "Who owns the camera?" "The business license." "The cloud account?" "And the client list?" she asked, tapping her pen once. I answered one by one, and each answer sounded like something Grant had been standing too close to for years. Renee told me to stop thinking like a wife and start thinking like a person whose name had been used without permission. We gathered receipts for the camera, policy records for my equipment, client agreements, tax filings, and cloud access logs. Clean documentation mattered because my business name could be dragged into civil claims if dirty equipment looked certified. Then she leaned forward and said, "You are not warning him. You are building a wall." By noon, I had changed every password that touched Lydia Carver marine claims. From email to invoicing to cloud storage. I turned on two-factor authentication, signed out unknown devices, and saved the access history exactly as Renee told me. The small clicks felt ridiculous at first, too quiet for a life coming apart, until I saw Grant's old tablet lose access. That was the first clean sound I had heard all week. I drove to Jocelyn's apartment in Capitol Hill with 2 hard drives, seal tags, client folders, and the backup inspection lens. My sister opened the door, looked at my face, and did not ask for a story she could not safely hold. "Tell me what not to touch," she said, already stepping aside, and I placed the boxes on her dining table. I finally understood that protection could be quiet and still be real. That evening, while sorting mail on my kitchen counter, I found the brochure Grant had not bothered to hide. Northwest Marina Safety Benefit. Glassy promises and sponsor names, with Lydia Carver Marine Claims printed beside Kelsey Rourke's event firm. My name looked professional, generous, willing, and absolutely stolen. I took one photo for Renee, one for Brenner, then set the brochure where Grant expected his wife to overlook it. Grant grew easier after the brochure sat on the counter for 2 days, which told me he believed silence still belonged to him. He started leaving his phone face up again, humming while he shaved, using my coffee mugs like nothing in the condo had shifted. At dinner, he mentioned the Northwest Marina safety benefit as if it were a favor he had arranged for my career. "Good exposure for you," he said, and I kept cutting vegetables because the knife steadied my hand better than prayer. I asked whether I had approved the sponsorship, and he smiled like I had made something small sound expensive. "We're married, Lydia. Don't make everything legal," he said, reaching for a beer without looking at me. That sentence landed exactly where Renee said it would, inside the file labeled permission he never had. I nodded once, slow enough to look tired, while every part of me memorized his confidence for later. The next morning, Kelsey Rourke emailed me from her event address with polished gratitude and a sponsor packet attached. She thanked me for supporting safer marina trade, cleaner logistics, and responsible equipment circulation across Puget Sound. The words were clean enough to sell soap, but my name sat beneath them like a signature she had practiced stealing. I forwarded everything to Renee, then printed one copy because paper still felt harder to gaslight than a screen. Renee told me not to answer Kelsey, not even with one sentence that might be twisted into consent. Detective Brenner called 20 minutes later and confirmed several serial numbers from the photos matched reports in King and Pierce County. She did not tell me what they planned, only warned me not to meet Grant near a dock, warehouse, or storage yard. "If he asks, you are busy with clients," she said, and I wrote that down like it was medicine. That night, Grant came into my office while I was sorting harmless client invoices across the desk. He looked at the empty shelf where my backup drive used to sit, then asked where I had moved it. I told him I was auditing old claim files before the benefit, and his eyes stayed on mine 1 second too long. For the first time, I saw the edge of worry under the charm, but he still thought he had time. By Friday, he and Kelsey were already rehearsing victory in public, posting vendor previews and thanking community partners. Her caption called Grant a trusted logistics connector, and my business name appeared again beneath a photo of polished table cards. I saved the post, sent it to Renee, and closed my laptop before anger could make me careless. The next morning, I put on a charcoal suit, my mother's earrings, and the face of a woman they had mistaken for paperwork. The venue sat above Lake Union with glass walls, warm lights, and enough chrome to make every lie look expensive. I checked in alone, watched the hostess find Lydia Carver marine claims on the sponsor list, and felt my name used before I spoke. Marina owners, vendors, insurance, and dock managers circled each other over drinks, trading careful compliments that sounded like contracts. This was the room Grant wanted, because credibility in Seattle could be rented if nobody checked the invoice. Grant stood near the bar in a navy blazer I had never seen him buy, laughing with 2 men from a supply group. Kelsey stayed close in a cream suit. One hand on a folder, like paperwork, could wash her clean. I heard her tell a dock manager, "Grant works closely with Lydia's claims network." And the man nodded, like my name lowered his risk. I stayed still, because sometimes the fastest way to catch a lie is to let it finish speaking. When the program began, the host thanked vendors, safety partners, and sponsors while the screen rolled through logos and polished phrases. Then my company name appeared in blue lettering, steady and official, before a room that could ruin or rescue me. The host invited me to say a few words, probably expecting gratitude, and Grant turned slightly, waiting for my approval. I took the microphone, looked at the screen, and said, "My company did not authorize this sponsorship, inspect these parts, or certify equipment connected to Mr. Brack. Whitlow's private logistics work." The room went so quiet I heard a glass touch a table near the back. Then Kelsey stepped forward first. "This is a misunderstanding about sponsor timing," she said, smiling too tightly at the crowd instead of me. I kept my eyes on hers and answered. Then explain why my business name is on invoices I never saw. A dock owner lowered his drink, and one insurance rep reached into his jacket for a card. Grant's face changed slowly, charm draining out before fear knew where to land, while Kelsey's folder pressed harder against her chest. Lydia, don't do this here, he said. But here was exactly where they had tried to sell me. I kept my voice even, because anger would have let them call me unstable, and told the room my counsel and law enforcement had the records. Detective Brenner entered before Grant could invent another shore, with 2 officers calm enough to make every guilty person measure exits. Grant looked past me, then at Kelsey, and neither seemed to know which lie belonged to whom anymore. Brenner spoke quietly to him, but his hands still lifted like innocence was something he could perform. When the cuffs closed, the sound carried farther than his reputation ever had. Tell them this is a mistake, Grant breathed as they turned him toward the exit. I looked at the man who had borrowed my camera, my company, my silence, and finally ran out of things to steal. The mistake was thinking my name came free. I answered, low enough for him and clear enough for the front row. Behind him, Kelsey stood frozen with her folder pressed against her chest while the room stopped recognizing her. No one needed me to explain the affair once the paperwork had already explained the crime. I came home from Lake Union and found the condo waiting with the kind of silence Grant used to fill for no reason. I took off my heels, set my keys beside the brochure, and stood there until the view stopped feeling borrowed. The city lights moved across the water, and nobody in that room needed me to soften the truth anymore. My name was still mine, and the quiet finally knew it. Renee filed for divorce that Monday, with protections around my business, equipment, client files, and debt tied to Grant's private logistics work. She did not promise revenge, and I did not ask for it, because paper had become stronger than every argument we never finished. Detective Brenner called later, confirming Grant remained under investigation for stolen property, insurance fraud, conspiracy, identity misuse, and pressure on marina owners. Kelsey lost the benefit contract first, then vendor access, then the clean little reputation she had built on other people's signatures. Jocelyn came over with cardboard boxes and coffee that tasted better than anything in my kitchen had for weeks. We packed Grant's clothes, shoes, and cheap cologne without drama, labeling everything for Renee so he could not claim destruction later. When Jocelyn lifted his navy blazer from the chair, she asked whether I wanted a minute. I looked at the empty hanger and said, no. I already gave him years. The camera came back 2 weeks later, without the original card, because evidence still belonged where evidence belonged. I bought a new memory card, drove to Lake Washington before sunrise, and watched a crew haul an old sailboat from the water. My hands did not shake when I loaded the card, formatted it clean, and lifted the lens towards something honest. The shutter clicked, and nothing in that sound belonged to Grant. I did not get my old life back, and I stopped wanting it once I understood what it cost. I kept my license, my clients, my name, and a larger marine insurance firm later hired me for independent field reviews. Peace did not arrive like a rescue. It arrived like a locked door, only I had the key to. Thank you for staying with this story to the end. And if you have ever gone quiet to survive, I hope you find the calm that lets you come home to yourself.